So,
I'm dying because Lead just murdered me with a hilarious moment.
he is phenomenal. He's a lot of fun.
Oh my
Um,
god.
he's actually Turkish, but he understands German better than he does like anything else, which is hilarious. Him and Anagram, when they start going back and forth, it's delightful. So, to those of you who don't know, this is my friend Ryan. They are amazing, and they do fan fiction, and are really, really good at world building in fan fiction, which carries over to non-fan fiction. I mean, there's nothing that fan fiction does that doesn't kind of carry over to other kinds of writing, so it's totally interconnected. So, I will clutch his pearls. Yeah, Ellie is so
Dang.
easily scandalized, by which I mean not at all.
I'm pretty sure I've seen some of the things that Elia has posted.
Yeah.
So can I actually I'll start off by talking, and then, as soon as I get a few more things pulled together, I should actually be able to share my screen to give you more of an idea of how I world build.
Okay, if we do
But
that, we will need
yeah.
to switch channels because unfortunately you can't do
Oh,
screenshots in the freaking presenting channel, which is really annoying.
oh, well, that's dumb. Never
But we
mind then.
but
What
we
I will do
can
is I'll take screenshots and post them later.
we can do that, or we can switch over to pure anarchy in a bit if we need to.
If we need to, we can do that after. Um, but yeah, I have been writing fan fiction since I was 9 years old, 9 to 11 years old, and I am now 35. So I've been writing since before I had a computer, back in the late 90s. So with all of that, with learning how to even just read back in that time and learning how to read your fanfics and the things that were um, important to us as a fandom back in the late 90s, a lot of what I have is grown out of those early internet, early days. And it is a combination of let's say, there is, also, I have aphasia. My words will just randomly yeet themselves out. So if I stop, because my brain decided
That's fine.
to.
Words being yeeted into the sun is a regular occurrence. Mine typically do that at least once or twice per session, and we everybody tolerates me anyway.
Same. I'm just like, give me a couple seconds. I'll figure it out. But yeah, no, this is straight out breaking open the lore of what makes a good world builder build, and that is plot holes.
Yes.
This is my thing. So, when I started off, when I was writing, I was writing Beast Wars Transformers fan fiction. Blah, it was bad. But we'll just, you got to start somewhere.
I started with gargoyles. It's okay.
Oh, so you get the Mary Sues and the Gary Stews already.
Oh
But
yeah.
if you haven't heard of what those are, I feel old. Stop. No, okay. No, 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 because I just heard that 1979 is the same distance from the year 2000 as 2021. We can all
Shh.
feel old.
Shh. Shh.
So,
Shh.
um, brain. Okay. What really ended up breaking into the full world build wasn't even Beast Wars. It wasn't Knight Rider, although that has more plot holes than, Kit can hit on a back roads dirt path. There's
I feel
yeah,
like
we all
there's a
feel old
them
about our
Dukes
own
boys
favorites.
joke in there.
There might have, oh shit, there was. Oh, I did good on that. Ooh, meta. So, with my I am Olaf today, I swear.
Sorry.
Brain does a thing. Nope. Anyways, so going through and learning how to just go from fandom to fandom to fandom also helped me understand a little bit more of what it was that not only I liked in a story or a form of media, but also what I hated and what I would change if I was able to write it. Plot holes are what fix are for. Funny you should mention that. That's how I gained the majority of my following, and the folks who used to follow me regularly when I was writing. Because let's fast forward from late 90s to early aughts, early mid aughts, specifically the year 2009. That's when Transformers 2 came out.
Yep.
And if anybody wants to hear me rant hard about anything, it's Michael Bay taking a story and going, I have a blender. Would you like to see me hope?
Will it
So,
blend?
oh, but will it sandwich?
Well, in this case, I
Not
don't
after
think it
that
did.
blend. It certainly did. Yes, anagram. Yes. Oh, goodness. Oh, here's some interesting what's aphasia. Thank you for explaining that. I apologize, Ned. I'm gonna say your name twice because it's really cute. Please let me know if I have to say it differently. I'm like Ned, it's so cute.
That's how I always say it, and he's never corrected me, so.
But yes, the Almighty Paragon, main character. Master Chief, main character. Good lord, could be either. But yeah, inability to put ideas into words, but it is it's not just it's both Brocas and Wernicke's. I can't, my pronunciation's all over the place today. But oh yeah, brah. Neuroscience, I love it. My particular brand of aphasia comes from trauma and uh, probably autism. We'll figure that out later. The short of it is I can see the words in my mind. I can almost feel my mouth say them, but I can't retrieve them. It's kind of fun because it actually that's why I always felt like I've been able to express myself better through written word.
Same.
A lot of what I'm saying now is kind of like a pre-prepared script
Mm-hmm.
that I can just say, okay, well, I need to find this section on how I do X and that section on how I say Y, and we're going to take these 3 sentences and those 4 sentences. Now, this is also how I world build. Sorry, not sorry. That's it. This is how I world build.
No, that's
It's
great.
it's how oh cool, that's Brocus. Oh, lead. You and I are gonna have to talk later.
Lead's a cool dude. He knows a lot about neuroscience.
Oh,
That is his thing.
I love it. That's like if I had more money and time and less and more interest in it, I'd neuroscience and neuropsychology and how it interacts between the two, especially in the conjunction of trauma and autism. That is where I want to study. But hey, words and writing.
Yep. Yeah, we're doing the words right now,
With the
theoretically.
words and the writing. So, with the blunder plot that happened during the Great Writers' Strike of 2009, back in and this is also part of why writing is a special interest because these details are important.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all of the Hollywood writers, script writers, and screenwriters, their guild went on strike, which is why in 2009 we had what we called blunder plot. That movie, Transformers 2, pissed me off so hard because, first off, we're all gonna just admit that Michael Bay knows nothing about character design and his jokes and his he reaches low for jokes, low hanging fruit. So
That's
as
what she
soon as I
said.
started,
Sorry. Speaking of
no, that's what
low-hanging fruit.
Devastator hoped. Devastator was hoping, honey. He was hoping.
I'm
But like
sorry.
when when I started to see that there was so much potential for so many different things that could be done in that universe, I was I was mad, and that's where I decided I gotta fix this. So I decided to not start with the second one. I started to fix it with the first. And that was a very, 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 very bad idea. Because I started writing this one piece of work in 2012, broke open the world of Transformers on 2 to 3 different universes, and said, okay, now what's not translating? What am I not getting from this thing to the other? Like, is there, where's the history? And that was the first thing that hit me. I was like, there's no fucking history. There's no history being taught. We're just giving like the flashbacks of a couple of battles. We don't know what leads up to them. We don't know who said what, or was it political? Was it religious? Was it societal? What was the breakdown? Was it monetary, financial? Was it energy? And if you've watched Transformers, a lot of the old it's a really good story overall because it just tells you about what the ultimate end is for an energy war. Everybody dies. So I decided to fix that too.
All right.
I write a lot of stories where I'm like, nah, we're gonna have them live.
Yeah, I don't like there's
Let's see what they
super
fuck up later.
right? Like I'm not a big fan of super depressing endings myself. I deal with enough of that in the
Yes,
real world. I'd rather have people live and
exactly.
cause mischief another day. I mean, other things are valid, but I prefer everybody I like
Mm-hmm.
surviving anyway.
My first favorite character when I was growing up was Dinobot, and watching here Code of Hero was so much fun because your favorite character dies on screen. It's insane. So I was like, I don't want to do that to anybody else.
Right.
So let me catch up here a little bit. If Michael Bay was a high fantasy writer, his paladins would generate a god of explosion and black powder just by sneezing. Bay Harbor, Bay Formers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and many more. Yes. Perfect.
Glorious. There's
I
nothing
also
wrong
prefer
with like
bittersweet
yeah.
over not bitter, just bitter. I agree with that. I'm sorry, you're saying?
No, I was actually gonna say the same thing. Like I'm okay with bittersweet so long as there's some sweet and like there's some kind of
Yes.
like I don't
Input
know. Did you
comfort.
read Anne McCaffrey's books?
Oh, all of them. Almost all of
Okay,
them.
so
Yeah.
I mean, this is spoiler from like 20 years ago, but Master Robinton's death was like, I'm still not
Mm.
over that, but it was so sad,
No,
but it
no,
was
no, no, no.
so perfect. Like it was exactly bittersweet. Like it was the
It was
only way it
exactly
could have
what it should
ended.
have been. Yeah.
So,
Oh, absolutely. Probably where that my first exposure to Transformers was the Michael Bay one. Anything else just wasn't on TV there. That is also why I wrote Things We Don't Tell Humans. That's the name of my uh, triple epic length fanfic. It is 360,000 words long.
dang, son.
It's
Oh, it
on.
was one of my husband is
What'd you say?
aghast. My husband Jay is very sad that somebody's first exposure to Transformers was Michael Bay. He like there was
I
a disturbance in the
know.
force. Like there's
Ow, my childhood soul.
ow his childhood soul.
Oh, oh, me too. But that just meant to me that I could create and help draw more people in from the Bayverse experience and say, oh, well, why did Megatron do this? Well, because the High Council, the Cybertronian High Council at the time did X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm. And
So
this
he
is
wasn't just
where
an evil, crazy megalomaniac.
right, and this is where
No.
those plot holes you were talking about come in. Like you're filling in
Bingo.
plot holes, and
Bingo.
in those plot holes is where your story lies.
Exactly. So I do a casual fly by my seat, but also will plan things out outrageously. Now I just crashed something on my computer, so I'll have to get it later. Um, but with let me get into a let's see, what is a good example that's not going to give anything away in the fanfic? Okay, so since we're still talking about that, let's talk about oh, fucking wheelie. Sorry. Flashbacks. I'm telling you, you want flashbacks to some really nasty times of sitting back and going, I'm sitting here in a movie theater with my ex-boyfriend watching Wheelie hump Megan Fox's leg. Thank you, Michael Bay. This is exactly what I wanted to think about 20 years later. Um,
It just shows that it left an
the
impression. Nid, I will make sure that question gets answered, but I'm gonna let them continue with their point.
yeah. um oh, I do see that. So I will highlight that so I can come back to it in a
Yeah.
second. Uh okay, give me 2 seconds, gotta find the words.
That's fine. While Ryan is reforming his brain out of Jello, or their brain out of Jello,
Both are good.
fair enough.
They is generally my go-to, but it's been a while since I've called he. Thank you.
Yeah, My brain is also jello, apparently. We shall wiggle together. There,
Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle.
yes. I think there are definitely spaces where you can leave things open for fan theories in original works. You just have to make sure that the important things are closed and the important things are explained. Is
Yes.
really you have to make sure the key things are there, but you're
Mhm.
welcome to leave like little hanging things off to the side that everyone's going to question forever,
Always.
which is the
Always,
fun.
always. I think that is the best thing because, or to create, because I actually have when people would respond back to me about the fanfic, about different things that they liked, different things they hated, because there's nothing more uh, sobering than signing on in the morning and realizing that something you posted 2 days ago suddenly has 5 to 7 reviews per chapter.
That's got to be exciting and scary.
It's exciting and terrifying
Yeah.
because it's at the time, that was also in a time where the Transformers fandom was really struggling with identity about this, because at this same time we started getting IDW publishing for their the comic books for Transformers, and that dealt with a lot of, again, interesting cultural and political commentary about that world.
Mm-hmm.
So the um so being able to both recognize, oh, they left that little piece of candy down for another movie, whether or not it'll get picked up or not later, I would kind of mark that down in my head and go, oh, okay, cool. So found my example in Transformers 2. They go into and they find what's his face again? Simmons. I don't know why I always forget his name. They find Simmons working for his mom at a meat counter. And, uh, commentary aside, he's got an entire safe room full of Transformers paraphernalia, actual Cybertronian pieces and parts, a lot of files, hard copies, digital copies, everything. He's got a mini museum down there. And so what I thought of was, there's info in there. There's info in that I can come back to and say, all right, Simmons, we came back. We want to know more about X, Y, and Z.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, what that ended up being was, we want to know about the babies. What happened to the babies?
Yep.
Because in Transformers 1, we saw how the Cube created miniature Transformers, or miniature Cybertronians. And that went... No, Nindid. No. Come back to my dark side. Come back to the dark side. Write fanfic. All cake is good cake.
Yes, come back to the dark side. We give you energon goodies.
So what I had done was, with that, I said, okay, cool. So instead of these being mindless monsters, what if these were just scared babies? And that just turned everything very dark for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay. I just wrote that, and now people are asking questions about it. I need to go figure out what to do. So fanfiction does have you fly by the seat of your pants to the demands of your readers in a way that most writers, I have never seen them interact with. And it's much more of a community-based form of transformative work, rather than it being the writer is a bit of an island all on their own.
Definitely, because when
So-
I'm writing something for myself, I'm not using anybody else's stuff, which is rare. Because Jay and I usually, like, a good third or 2/3 of what I write is based out of text-based role plays that my husband and I have done over the years. Like, I write new stories and such, but if I'm writing something that's completely in a vacuum by myself, I'm not really. It's kind of lonely.
It really is.
But at the same time, the community aspect of dealing with something with fans, because this is drawing on my years of Gargoyles roleplay and fanfic back in the day, because this is
That's some good shit right there.
reaching back into the mists of time and Avalon.
Get out of here, Marion Zimmer Bradley. Get out.
I was talking about the okay, all right. I was
Okay,
talking about
all right,
season
sidebar,
3.
Let's go. Sidebar.
I was talking season 3 Gargoyles, where they spent like 3/4 of the entire thing in a fucking boat out in the ocean, and the mists going
Oh my
back and forth
God,
to
you're
Avalon.
right.
That made no sense to anybody. We just pretend season 3
Except-
doesn't exist. Anyway, I have opinions on season 3.
Okay, well, season 8 of Voltron does not exist either. So, let's
Yes.
go. I'm going to catch up here with Ellie in the chat real quick. I really like reading different fanfic interpretations of the same ambiguous plot point or backstory or something. I hope fanfiction communities make it so that those differences can always coexist and never become like, my fanon should be treated as a canon and your headcanon is heretical or something.
Yeah.
That is part of what the fandom, the Transformers fandom had kind of struggled with for a bit, because it really did have that, well, you know, the canon says this and the canon says that, and we're like, yeah, but Michael Bay's a bleepity 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 bleep.
You can swear, it's okay.
He's a fucking idiot. But
We are not
yeah.
under 18 for these. We usually end up talking about like dinosaur vampire erotica halfway through, and that's the end of it.
Well, you know, I can absolutely help you out with the erotica aspect, because Transformers erotica is how I learned about safer sex styles,
Mhm.
like kink and whatnot. So, like, this fandom is so, and that's what I liked, is that I helped really bring my corner of this fandom back up into that healthier place of saying, okay, guys, look, I have a fanfic. What I write in the fanfic is not going to always be my opinion. It's going to be the opinion of a character.
Yep.
Am I going to write things wrong and incorrect and have to retcon? Yes. Guess what? I can at least do that. It's not in print.
Right.
And what's the point of fanfiction if thou must follow only the canon over?
Right? Like, if
Oh.
anybody ever writes, like, I'm hoping I have somebody writes fanfic of my novels someday. Like, that would be how I know I've arrived.
Joke. I was waiting for that joke. I was waiting for it.
Like, if somebody writes fanfic of my
No, they
novels,
actually-
I will know I have arrived.
Yes. The actual joke is so speaking of world building, one of the things that ended up happening is you get some amazing fragging vernacular. And frag, slag, those are two things, but then you get the fun ones like clanging and swapping cables.
So, if there's USB
Sounds like a good
insert
time.
sounds, no matter which direction they go in the first time is going to be upside down, and they're going to have to flip it over twice before they're able to do anything. Is that like a ritual for them?
That
Oh, I think I killed them.
I think you might have. No, that just makes it kinky.
Oh, okay, all right. Fair enough.
What? Don't tell me that you haven't turned around and been like, oh, were they facing face to face or face to back of head?
It's more like, how
how do
many
you write
limbs
this
are
scene?
there? Wait, count the penises. That's Heather's problem. Is usually like, how many penises are involved in this scene?
You
Wait,
can't
one,
do that,
two.
though. 1, 2, 3. That's just one mech alone.
See. Heather writes humanoid erotica, so it's easier.
Listen,
USB-C. We do not talk about USB-C.
We've gone on to lightning cables, lightning ports.
Yeah.
I always thought Cybertonian sex would be more similar to what Newt did with the kaiju brain. Oh, yo, okay. Pac Rim 2, I didn't see Pac Rim 2. I saw Pac Rim, and Pacific Rim was just hysterical, because I was like, oh my god, these are just people who haven't seen Kiss Players or haven't seen the Headmasters series. Like, y'all, this has already been done before, and thou shalt love the tender.
Oh, there's Heather. I knew you were in here somewhere.
Brilliant, wonderful, welcome. Welcoming.
I know Heather also
So-
got her start doing. She did a lot of fanfic for a long time too.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Before she started writing professionally, so that's one of her big things is also fanfic. Like I'm a big
love it.
proponent of starting there, also because you get such immediate community
Always.
feedback too.
Yes. Yes.
Like
yes.
if something sucks, you learn fast.
And that, 1.5 million words on AO3. Hell yeah, you my people. I think I've found you. I'll have to at least go back and actually reread stuff because my brain is terrible. Anyways, plot holes, world building in fanfic. we yeeted so far off of that point.
I mean, we've been talking.
Actually, no, we didn't.
It's relevant.
We have been talking. It is still relevant. Yeah. I think one of the things that I like the most about world building in fanfic is that you do have that community aspect. And if you have a question before you even, or if you need to have someone like read it over real quick, you have these folks who are already familiar with the base material, the source material. They're familiar also with the, hopefully your work. And if you've got something new for them, they will probably tear your messaging system apart to get to that new fanfic.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I definitely didn't understand quite so much of what I had been doing when I was world building, but it was very interesting because what it did was it brought a lot. It was like playing in a sandbox. I'd have 5 to 6 browser windows open just for Transformers, not everything else, but just for Transformers, and my planning thing. So, coffee shop AUs.
I also like, I think the starting in fanfic is also really nice because it means that a newbie writer doesn't inherently get overwhelmed with, like, what is the economy like in this small nation on the other side of my country that I will never know exists?
They will not have to work that out.
Right. And
Praxis and Praxis already existed outside of Iacon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You had Praxis, and so I wrote a lot about, in that city, in Praxis, and in Iacon specifically. Those are my two main cities that I built out on Cybertron. I took 2 to 3 concepts of Iacon and said, okay, well, I need to have a citadel for the primes. I have to have this. I have to have that. I have to have this. And I don't have to worry about X, Y, and Z happening over there in Polyhex. Not relevant. But even then, just knowing that there was also probably some historical stuff going down in Kaon specifically. Kaon is where Megatron is from. It's a city of miners and they said that it built itself down. It pretty much drilled itself down into the core of the planet. And there was upheaval and unrest in there at the same time that there was a lot of happy things happening in Iacon. So understanding how one is rising and one is lowering and where that is, just even having that pinging in the back of my head because I know that Megatron was in the mines at that time and suffering. Cool. How can I use that later on? Well, you were sitting on, that will end up coming up inevitably 15 chapters later.
Yep.
Well, you were sitting on your polished ass, all high and mighty in Iacon. Actually, no, I was not. I was a dock worker. Fuck you, Megatron. Like,
Right.
That's that kind of, like, that repartee that comes out of the world building that's already there for fandom. And that's why I always tell folks, and I actually took a novel writer down a couple of pegs when I asked him. I'm like, okay, so how did you start writing, and who was your community? And he couldn't answer me. He could answer the first half, but not the second half, because that community did exactly what it needed to do for me, which was to teach me, you're here to learn, yes, but also you're going to hold a lot of ideas for later.
Yep.
Spread the seeds.
Definitely. And I cannot overemphasize how important community is for writers, because I wrote in a vacuum forever. And when I finally found a community, which was the community I met Heather and a couple other folks here, and I jumped in both feet and I loved it. The community ended up being really toxic, but there were some really phenomenal people I connected with, and that's one of the reasons I made this group, is because community is so important. And yeah, exactly, Heather. And She knows what's up.
Nope, 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 nope.
Um,
Oh man, no, that's it. That's why I created my Discord community as well, because I knew that there's a space needed,
mhm.
especially after Tumblr fell.
Yeah. Tumblr was
That
just tragedy.
Tumblr was so good at helping me understand, at helping me dig into certain aspects of how I wanted to create this. Like,
Mhm.
Fool's Energon was a concept that was created, but it was like, oh, is it real Energon or is it not real Energon? I don't know. Let's go to Tumblr.
Mhm.
And not real Energon. Cool. All right, next. And that would, it was such. It's sad because a lot of these posts, a good chunk of them had the good sexy times on them, so they
So
got
Tumblr was like,
deleted.
nope.
Yeah,
Yeah. The puritanism that took over Tumblr is tragic, honestly.
it really was. It was awful.
It
But
like I started all of my writing back on forums in the day. That's where I
mhm.
was doing things, was on the old school forums and like LiveJournal. Lead Tumblr is
Yep.
it's sort of like a Reddit style like blog sort of website, or it used to be really big. It isn't as big now. They had a really huge turnover. I don't know if it's available where you are or not. Or if it was big, but it was really big in the US, and I think the Europe and such
About
it was
5
really
years
big.
ago. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
they banned the lewd.
right.
That's
Yeah,
really
they
what it was.
banned all the sexy times, and then the entire place turned to just a ghost town of sadness and abandoned memories.
Yep, long
Yeah.
live LiveJournal. Oh wow, yeah, LiveJournal died too.
Yep.
But that's kind of been the frustrating but good aspect, which was that we as writers in this digital age, we have the ability to create our own connections, and we aren't relying on just meeting up at a library.
Definitely. And
Uh,
the ability to connect with people, like we've got a pretty big international reach here. I don't know if you knew that. We've got some
yeah,
folks in uh Lead is Turkish, Anagram is
yep,
German, Ellie is Indonesian. I think we've got a few other people from all over the place. Like it's amazing to be able to just connect with folks who have seen and experienced the world from such different perspectives, and who
hmm
can bring that to their writing, and when they read your writing, like they can see that too. It's so cool. And
yeah,
creating a community is like finding a community is really important. And Raichu, I answered you in text, but I mean, your past community experiences, I can't speak for that, but you've got this one now, and
yeah.
this one's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
So,
that's really it. Yeah, and the past community experiences like that even I've had, it's all they've done is teach me how I want to better myself.
yep,
Whether it was my fault or not. I just want how do I want to not encounter X, Y, or Z again? Uh, but it's you know what? Take your time to heal.
yep.
Um, Speaking of healing, actually, that's actually a little tangent to go off of for world building specifically in its own way when you're dealing with aliens. Ah. It's not just how are they going to heal. It's okay, well what does disability look like in their culture?
Yep.
What do they think of for what does it mean to be abled or not abled, or sound or unsound,
What is gender?
mentally? Gender. Oh, now that, I actually created a middle gender for Transformers because I was sick and tired of not having one. I was
Also,
like,
I mean, they're robots. It's not like they've got
yeah.
pieces per se. I mean, so
I mean, you can write it that way if you like it. We
yeah.
call that. Actually, that one is not plug and play. That one was called. There literally was like, oh, this is. It's called Sticky
Okay.
because it's after the Sticky Humans. It's the type of. Yeah.
I have missed things. I'm. We'll have to
I'm sorry. That was the whole plug and
over the
play and the
head. Shoo.
gender
Oh, okay. My brain.
and they plug and play is the you got cables and you're plugging them
Oh,
in for some
gotcha.
good mental play,
Gotcha.
and then this is also like I'm glad I have a chance to actually explain this because this is part of the world building that the community has brought together. this is not all stuff that I've brought together. This is stuff that, you know, you had sticky interfacing, or you have plug and play interfacing. You know, they called the downstairs dangly
Yep.
spike. It's a spike in a slot.
That makes sense.
And I'm like, I mean, it does make sense. But, you know, you have, when you're going through the healing aspect, I love Ratchet. I think Ratchet is the best grumpy medic on the face of the planet. And I think they did a great job of him on Transformers Prime. He was voiced perfectly. So what you saw, and they also did some really good things about understanding that medical professionals go through a very different type of mental strain than, you know, than other people who, you know, may be around them or supporting them.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
It's definitely a thing to explore. Like, also, how would robots handle death? Like, what is death for them?
Oh, you know, I'm actually really good at that question.
Well, yeah, I'm just that would be
yeah,
murder. Sorry, there's a
Hold on, let me catch up with this. Bacteria can have gender, kind of. I mean, technically, there's a minimum of at least 32 genders. I could be wrong, possibly 64. But, you know, that's just in humans. I don't even know.
yeah,
That's a level of science I haven't even gotten to.
there's so much complicated chromosomal biology,
right?
chemistry stuff that I just
Murder. Okay.
I've learned to accept. Okay, whatever makes sense. All right, that's
Does
fine.
it make sense to you?
Great.
Congratulations.
Are you
I'm
happy
just
with
trying to
you?
live my
Great.
life.
Yeah, exactly. Are you happy with you? Yes. Okay. Are you
Yep.
healthy?
Yep.
Good. Like,
So, death in world building and in Transformers in specific is it can go one of two ways. There's either that's it. Their life force is called a spark. That was brought into that came up in Beast Wars back in the late 90s. They also introduced the concept of an immortal spark, which was Starscream back in that. Then because I reference Beast Wars a lot because it's I mainlined that shit. Yes, Starscream had it, and Starscream had what was called the Immortal Spark. It was something that they ended up kind of trying to replicate in Rampage later on in season 3. So their concept of death is reminiscent either of, depending upon the world, either just you die and that's it. You got one chance, or you get reincarnated.
well, that would be
in
the
some way,
eternal
shape, or
spark
form.
thing, right?
But then you have, and if that's actually separate, then you have this immortal spark, which means that they retain both their mentality, their ideals, everything that made them them. So everything that made Starscream stayed in his spark.
Okay,
And
so
it did
it's
not
sort of like a data
get
backup.
lost. Exactly.
Okay.
But it doesn't, not everyone will see it that way. And you'll also hear of a lot of fanfics, a lot of the really, really good hurt comfort ones actually center around some of the concepts of what is death. And do we love the people we love for the person who they are or the person that they became?
That's a fair
dark.
perspective lead. Like it's a totally fair perspective. It's just, you know, there are so many different angles with which to approach things.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
a lot of the time I think fanfic, a lot of it
On Death Battle.
is
Yep.
is sort of a lot of folks like work out their own personal feelings through fanfic and kind of process experiences and grief and so on, like through that, and they're kind of doing it in a way that is an homage to their experience. So, okay, so this is not...
It brings their experience into a digestible form.
Right, so this isn't fanfic, but let's talk Lord of the Rings for a second.
Yeah, no, let's do it. This is actually... Well, Lord of the Rings has amazing fanfic, too. I just haven't been able to get into it.
I'm
So,
not a
yeah,
I'm
let's
not
go.
a Lord of the Rings fan fangirl, but fan person, fan whatever. Anyway,
It's all good.
it's all good. But if you look at Lord of the Rings, there's no question, if you look at it from a narrative perspective, it is him telling the story of him going away to war, coming back, PTSD and all that stuff. There's no question. And that is a really prime example of somebody working out a thing they're dealing with, something really heavy that they can't articulate any other way, and using stories to tell the truth. And that's a lot of what fanfic is doing, is like they're using stories to tell the truth.
100%. 100%. I could not agree with you more, because this actually leads me directly into that point of that I started writing I started writing Things We Don't Tell Humans after my uncle passed away unexpectedly. I needed something to distract me. And so part of what I've worked out through the various forms of exploring grief in this tome of fan creation was the aspect of both losing someone forever, and also not losing someone forever. Because I feel like, as much as I personally, I'm tired of death.
Yep.
I'm tired of loss. My personal losses are pretty painful. They're pretty poignant.
Yeah.
But the way that I have I used to process things was I used to write all the time. One thing that I'm very open about is I saw a motor vehicle death when I was 16 years old. I saw a motorcyclist get killed.
Oof.
And I didn't drive until I was 25, but after going through other traumas, going to therapies, and about a decade of therapy and all this other stuff,
We need like coins or a club or something.
y'all, we need a fucking pin. We just need pins. Pins that you can just put like little stars in, like you know how Joanne's does it with their scissors.
Yeah.
That shit. I got you. So with that, one of the first writing projects I did was I was doing songfic. And looking back, what I had done in that very first fanfic, I saved my favorite character from dying. So I reversed death. I revisited the site that my father killed this motorcyclist on, both figuratively and literally several times. And I changed the future. So what I was able to do was take control and consent back into my life through writing.
Oh, yeah.
And with Things We Don't Tell Humans, which I wrote, I started writing that about 15 years after that point. Because it was during writing Things We Don't Tell Humans that I realized that I'd been writing for about 21 years. And I was like, oh,
That's
no.
one of those moments where you're just like stare at the wall for a minute, be like, oh.
Oh, it was a 1,000-yard stare, and I'm like, my writing career can drink. Should I? Should I?
Yes, I should.
I need a drink. So
Right? Like,
I'm gonna need a stiff one for that.
Yeah.
So, anywho's, that's a joke. I make myself laugh. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
World building within that aspect of how do you deal with death, and what are the mourning, and how do you mourn, and this is actually an interesting thing. This is something I say tread carefully on when you're world building, and I mean that very seriously, because we are in a place and a time where cultural appropriation is rampant.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. I draw from the Irish aspect of my life, where I say, all right, what is something that my culture does that I can introduce to say they're grieving?
Yep.
And it's not just here, but it's also common. It's not just in Irish literature, but also common in others, and it's called keening.
Oh, yeah.
And it's
that kind of like wail.
Oh, it's a wail that
like comes from your soul.
I've got shivers thinking about it, because it's a noise I make.
Yep.
It is an actual noise of grief. That if you have never, I hate that feeling. No thanks.
It's like hair up the back of the neck kind of feeling. Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. Because what it does is it really just goes, and it brings in a full embodiment of loss. And so I took that, and I'm like, okay, well, these are machine beings who cannot cry, who, if they clap their hands too hard, can break their hands because mechanical creatures.
Right.
How would they grieve? How would they cheer? Well, cheering is simple. They just stomp their feet.
Yep.
That was something that, makes you see in older cultures as just being a solidarity thing as well.
Mhm.
But with the keening, I'm like, they can create some amazing noises. How would I do this?
Yeah.
How would I make it sound eerie? How would I find a way to describe it in words? Is it glop 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 time, my dude? Yep, glop 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 time. It is my dog drinking water.
There was a disconnect because you were talking about like.
I'm sorry. I also went left hand. My dog distracted me, and that
No,
was
totally
my fault.
fine. It was just I had my brain made the pung error noise in the middle of that. Like, what? I mean, I guess that could be an expression of grief if you want it to be. I'm not going to judge,
Is
but
it
I do
pum
have
pum pum time?
questions.
I mean, but that's also like that playfulness. Put that into your fucking fanfics, people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, have those moments where you type something out and it's just so ridiculous that you have to stop and have like in-character conversations about it.
Yep.
It's so much fun because I did that on something and I can't remember what it was, but I just broke myself laughing, walked away, came back with a fresh cup of tea and kept writing.
Yep.
But fish people grieving glub glub glub. Oh no. Or that would be blug blug
Sad
blug.
fish.
I
think roleplay also. I mean, so you're more of a fan fiction. I'm more of a roleplay person. Like I've done all of it.
I tried roleplay, digital roleplay, didn't quite work out for me.
Yeah, it's been my thing since like gosh, that was I started role playing on the Gargoyles forums in like 1997, and I never stopped. Like AOL chat rooms, forums, like all the way forever.
AIM was the roleplay place to be.
Yep, I have
2 minutes that I had it.
Yep, I have friends that I am really close to now. Like one of them lives with me that I met on AIM through roleplay.
Wild.
Yep. So,
Wild.
I ran a pretty big chat on there too. You probably don't remember it, or if you ever knew it, but anyway, and roleplay served a similar purpose for me. Like it was corporate world building, so it wasn't as threatening. And everybody was participating, so it wasn't just me writing the story, and I could react off of other things. And of course, you have the same like instantaneous feedback, like "Wow, that post was stupid," or "No, you can't do that." Like it's a similar sort of like back and forth, grinding against each other until you learn how to like both interact as a human being and.
Okay. That's the point there. That's it. You're right on the money there. That is what that's really what I feel that a lot of let's say singlet writers, rather than writing communities, do not have. Like they don't have the consent culture that builds within understanding, and because that's one of the first things I learned was you do not god mode someone else's.
Right, like they have to.
If you're the Mon, you are not going to god mode someone else's character.
Yep, exactly. Like they have to give consent to whatever it is you're gonna do, because I mean,
you have to write in that first person aspect. This is actually, like, I loved it. I just couldn't do it.
Well, totally fair.
But that point is so fucking good because it is that consent culture of how do you, because so often I read these novels and I'm like, honey, you don't talk to people very often, do you?
Right?
Oh, don't go away. My screen's just turned off.
Oh.
I did not move my mouse for long enough. Look at me go. Too busy talking.
But yeah, no, I'm with you. Like that's one of the things I really liked about roleplay is it also taught me about like organic interactions because you'd have characters in all of these crazy situations like that could never happen in the real world, having conversations that felt very human and still feel very human and are very real and concrete. But at the same time, you're throwing magic and like fighting bad guys or whatever it is you're doing that
you got giant honking robots coming in to destroy your city.
Exactly. Or whatever it is, like So
I
it's
completely understand that point, and I'm glad that we're able to actually identify that.
definitely like I'm a huge proponent of role play as a writing exercise in general. That's one of the like I still
Mm-hmm.
role play a lot.
Get it?
Yep, I
Good.
love it. It's my friend.
I mean, it is both, and that's why I I struggle very hard with writing original fiction because I would love to. I have lots of stories that need to be told, but I have to write them as if I'm writing a fanfic of something that's already created.
So write a fanfic or your own
Why?
setting.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
The behind it all has to do with um the behind it all has to do with the fact that it's just like I lost my words.
That's okay. Bless you.
We are loading the words again.
Yeah, that
Sorry, I
you will get
a
there. That's okay.
text message came in,
Y-
but
It is difficult to write. It can be kind of intimidating in a way to write your own stuff because you also it sort of feels like you're adrift a little bit because the only
very much.
the only content you have to rely on is your own, which is one of the reasons why I like writing urban fantasy. Like so my first novel that I finished was high fantasy.
Right.
But the one that I've published is urban fantasy, and it has the backbone of being set in actual Boston, in actual places I can go, and places I can
Right.
use Google Maps, and like there's physics, and the world exists as the world exists. So I don't need to come up with the socioeconomic political movements of country
Of the world
schmuggsba.
and the blah 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 blah
Right.
blah.
Like I can
Yeah,
be like,
yeah.
okay, yeah, Russia's being a bastard right now in my story, whatever it is. Like I don't need to imagine that. So it helps a lot because I mean I have the whole fantasy overlay. I mean I have all the fantasy races exist and they have their own politics and they've always existed, and so things like World War II, it was both human supremacy and elven supremacy stuff
Ooh,
layered on top of the stuff that already existed. I'm not
nice.
erasing what happened to World War II because that
Right.
seems disingenuous, but I'm adding layers to it. So
No, yeah, I get you on that one. The one author I know of who does something very good for that in urban fantasy is Patricia Briggs.
I've heard the
Like her or
name.
hate her, she's really good.
Ew, elves. Thanks.
Oh, ew, elf. Ew.
But like in a
No.
way, what I'm doing with my novels is I'm sort of writing fanfic of the real world, like what if. So
Yeah.
you might find something like that useful. Like you could take, uh, I'm not saying not to write your own setting, but if you were to take like folklore or something, you're writing fanfic of the folklore, which might
Oh
help
yeah, I
you
mean
kind
that's
of.
Dante's Inferno in a nutshell.
Exactly. I mean, honestly, most things we write are fanfic of folklore
Right?
of one flavor or another. Let's just call it what it is, okay?
It is. It
It's
is. And
inescapable.
it is, and it's getting the getting of all of my patience for myself, my patience for my process, the fact
Mm-hmm.
that my process did not evolve with me as I've moved through my life.
Yep.
That's also something I've got to kind of figure out and be like, well, how do I want to write again?
Well, if you want to talk to
But
me about that sometime, like hit me up. I'm good at that kind of
yeah,
thing.
I think I'd love to pick your brain on that because that's something I'm struggling with because
I
I do
do.
want to get.
Yeah, I do
Can
like.
you fix Turkish economy in your fanfic, please?
Um, I. You know what?
I'm sorry, that was good.
I will
I
make a
shouldn't be laughing.
nod. I will try and remember to make a nod to that in book 3 and talk about how amazing Turkey's economy is just for you. I'll try
And
and
just keep
remember.
everybody else out because they don't want us there.
Yeah.
We'll ruin it.
It's your true story. But yeah, like it. I do writing coaching, so if you want to talk about that, let me know. Like that's something I
Oh,
do.
that's right. That's right.
So
I'll
we can definitely talk
pin
about
that for
that.
later.
But I think like ultimately in a way we are all writing fanfic of everything we've ever read and encountered in our lives. Even the original fiction is we're pulling
I
on
agree.
pieces of things that every piece of media,
Fanfic
everything we've ever
extends.
encountered,
Nice.
ever,
Yeah.
is being
Because
pulled. Because write what you know is a
yeah,
thing.
I know it's a thing, and that's what I love.
Hmm.
I love when, because I was first given, give you my history on that phrase. I was given that phrase, write what you know, and what have you, by a man who came in to sign books at a Borders I was working at the time, and he was a bastard.
Eh.
Steve Alton is not a good man.
I don't know the
Just a
name,
jerk.
but I am sorry you dealt with an asshat.
Oh well, it was years ago. I don't care anymore. I was like, oh, you're just
Oh, neat, Heather.
gotcha, you're just here for the face factor. Got
Yeah.
it. Okay, bye, dude. So, but he had said, oh well, write what you know. So if you learn more, blah 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 blah, blah da, da, da. And I'm like, all right, I'll sit with that for a bit.
Yep.
But what if what you know is what you imagine?
Well, there's also, like, there's another half to
that's what I
that
love.
sentence, too. Like, write what you know, research what you don't, because then you know it.
Yes.
So, I mean, yes, write what you
Yes.
know, but you can change what you know at any given time by doing some research. Like, just go read a wiki article, and ta-da, you now know a thing. Like, so,
You know more.
Yep.
Everything is Googleable. The amount of times I have told somebody, you don't need to just write some medieval story, rodents and lots of smoosh.
yes.
So like Redwall for adults. Sounds like
Honestly,
fun.
yeah, his writing is really good.
know?
I've been reading the chapters he's put up. He and I have done a lot of talking. I'm really excited about his book.
That's awesome. I can't wait.
It's good.
He's good. He's very good. But yeah. So how about this? I kind of just word vomited for a
Mhm.
bunch of that.
Yep.
About world building. Is anyone have questions or anything that is like they'd like to hear more about, or like a nuance of?
Also, I do not have
'Cause-
D&D tonight, so we can run a little bit over. I'm not running out the door.
I should read Redwall at some point.
I probably should too.
Well, let me actually suggest this. For Brian Jakes, don't start with Redwall. That one is a bit boring. Start with Mossflower or Matimio.
Okay.
Probably Mossflower. That
All
one
right.
is one of the first 4 books that he wrote. I'll write it down in here.
Okay.
If I can type FLOWER. But Mossflower, Brian Jakes, amazing author, describes things so well. He was, if you don't know anything about him, he was he taught at a school for the blind, so he found ways to describe things that were very sensory rich.
Ooh. I like it.
Oh, it's amazing. Oh, it's so amazing. But that's why I say read Redwall second. Because even though you're kind of struggling to understand the world a little bit in Mossflower, Wings of Fire fanfic for inspiration. You know what? Google it. Let us know. I mean, just,
AO3, I mean, let's just
be cautious of how you find out there in
Rule
in the
34,
world.
okay? Let's just...
Rule 34, exactly. But yeah, he was a teacher at a school for the blind, so he really did a lot of that, like, really well done.
that sounds like it's worth
he's
studying.
a world builder right there,
Mhm.
because he took a lot of Britishisms and made them not just, digestible for folks in England with animals, but also ended up making some amazing stories about wildlife animals and rodents swinging swords, and an occasional long patrol of hares coming through who are on their way back to Salamandastron and the Badger Lord or Badger Lady, depending upon who's feeling feisty this month. Legit, it is an amazing universe. It's one of my favorites, and I'm actually looking forward to going back and rereading all of those stories again.
I've never actually
but-
read it, but I did read Duncton Wood. That was one of the best books. It was it's similar to Redwall, that series, but it is about moles.
Yeah.
It's by William Horwood, and they're just beautiful, kind of spiritual, sort of intriguing, very British Irish mythology sort of thing. But the story is so good.
Now all I can think of is calling it Mole World. and I can barely say that.
Yeah.
Mole world.
Yeah, it's really good. I haven't read all of the books in the series, but I read Dunkton Wood. There's apparently an entire book series that I never got my hands on. I only had the first one, but it was just gorgeous and I loved it, and I read it until the covers fell off, literally.
Oh my god, I love that. I do that.
Yep.
Just I think that to me is the mark of a good world build
Mhm.
because it's so believable that you can't put the book down.
Yep.
That's why
Anne
I
McCaffrey.
okay. Oh, Anne McCaffrey.
The
Patricia
Pern series,
Graves.
my first and true love.
Oh,
That was did you know Dragon Song?
You would love. Oh my god, you would love Redwall. Holy shit! I'm sorry. Let me back all this train back up. Holy shit! They write very similarly.
Ooh,
They write Anne McCaffrey and Brian Jakes write similarly enough in their ability to, especially as they fell into their voice, to not just give character, but to let the characters speak for themselves.
that sounds amazing. I'm definitely gonna have to read them. Right now I'm reading a novel for a friend of
Anagram,
mine
I
that's
told
coming
you.
out.
I told you, Rule 34.
Yep.
Told you.
But
Sorry.
you did that to yourself.
Yeah, I said you can Google anything. Google is free. Just Google cautiously.
Yeah, right. Just because you aren't always going to be happy with the eldritch horror you find on the internet, but at the same time, you did it to yourself.
Oh, you saw the Redwall series. Ooh, there's also a video game coming out soon for that too.
Ooh. My first exposure to furries was
New meaning to here be dragons.
Yep.
Yeah.
What was the name of that? It was there was this pixel game where you played a fox. I forget the name of it. It was
Ooh, I don't know.
I have to find it. It was a really good. You played it was furry before furry was a thing. Like we're talking 90s point and click adventure type game.
We're talking furries when they were still so underground that they barely knew how to talk to drag queens about how to hijack your couch cushions for padding.
Yeah. Yeah. Back in the day.
That was a struggle of a sentence. Holy shit, folks.
Yeah. I have not I'm not a furry, but I'm very close to the community. I mean, I know a lot of folks in it, so whatever.
Oh, yeah, same.
Like
I if I had more time and energy, I would definitely be in the furry community a lot more than just being on the outskirts and waving.
I just don't have the energy and the money and the costuming, and there's just so many people, and I just no. Cons are a
Though,
lot.
I will say, furry conventions are my favorite conventions. Because people are actually very aware of consent and space. Because if you are creeping up on somebody and they have a tail,
Yeah.
they turn around quickly, your ass is on the ground because their tail tripped you.
Yep, and you deserved it.
Yep.
I
just see them as money.
That's fair. The only quote unquote convention I go to are the SCA events I attend. That's the closest thing I get to cons and I mean they're sort of cons in a way.
And those haven't really been going on right now because especially in our region, we're still so
COVID.
Strike the panini.
Yeah. But like I'm not doing anything right now, but like
no.
The closest thing I ever get to cons are the CA events or like the occasional Ren Fair.
Yep.
Which is, full of my people, so I'm comfortable there. Like, I'm sure that, like, I really want to go to a writing convention someday, but this is completely off topic. Wandered off into the weeds. Oh, look, there's Moses. Sorry.
Here's a horny squirrel book. I mean, Chuck Tingle.
We found Moses and a horny squirrel book. What is this? Sorry,
I wish I had a snappy answer for that one. But apparently it might be your... I don't know. It's our next...
The closest snappy answer that I have is, what's this? What's this? There's porno everywhere.
Ooh.
Copyright strike.
The first time I actually saw that was, what's this? What's this? There's white stuff everywhere. What's this? What's this? There's white stuff in the air. And I realized that it was actually about...
Snow.
I mean, oh, hello, Mr. Sir. You heard me get all silly. Huh. My service doggo in training just came over to walk closer because he is a hired boy.
Oh,
We did some training this morning, and he was loving and hating it at the same time.
yeah. I know that feel.
But as far as let's see here, the ultimate Moses and Leeds Squirrel book. Ooh. So let's see, world building in. Let's see, anything else that
I think we've kind of like covered a big
down some of it.
swath of like topics,
Yeah.
kind of like touched on a lot of different things, which is great. Like that's that's the
I'm
kind of thing I
definitely
love.
down to do more of the, definitely down to help out and do more of these. So if
Yeah.
there is a need, if anybody ever wants to do more like, hey, what is this one fan fiction fandom thing? Give me a week to figure out.
Definitely.
I'm happy to help. Just
I'm
because a lot of it can be literally just like this. I'm giving you as broad strokes as possible with a few bits and pieces of info in the middle.
Yep.
There's a lot. It's just as big a world as independent publishing.
Oh, definitely. Like there's no writing is writing is writing. It doesn't matter if you're writing for profit and your name's on a book cover or if you're writing on AO3 for, 5 fans. It's the same damn thing. The only difference is whether or not you make a living.
More.
Yeah, well, I mean,
yes, and the recognition. Oh, but and the living. Ooh, you and I just need to not speak each other's brains.
but like that's really the only difference is whether or not you're making money off of it, and that's okay. Ooh, those are some really good concepts, Illy. I like that. Those are some good
Favorite
things.
Fanfic specific world building characterization or plot tropes. I am down. That is. I've got 5 off the top of my head.
Nice.
But that would be for another night.
Maybe we can plan to do another talk.
Yeah.
Because next week we're not doing one because it's Christmas. So, I'm gonna be busy. And
I'm gonna be busy for other reasons.
yep, you're busy doing a lot of stuff right now. But we can
life.
right. So we can plan for sometime soon to do another like joint talk about that stuff. That sounds like fun. And also,
Absolutely.
just as a reminder, anybody else who ever wants to give a talk or like hang out and do like one of these with me, I am 100% down. I really want to encourage people to do these because it gets you used to talking, which can be really important when you start marketing if you're going to be selling your books. So this kind of thing is great.
This very much felt much less of like a talk, and it felt much more like a podcast in a way.
Yeah.
So it's a really for anyone who may be a little bit worried, it's just like talk. I mean, it's you're talking with your bestie. It's just any other conversation, and hopefully just dropping information with everybody else. So it's easy. You can do this. I promise.
Definitely. There's one of us.
One of us.
Yes. So definitely, if you're nervous, don't be. Or we can get a small group of people to do a round table. I'd be fine doing a round table of some kind. That might be fun.
That'd be fun.
But I think it's a really good experience for folks to kind of have and get out there. And also it's something that you can use to market because these are recorded. They go up on YouTube. So you can say, yeah, I did this talk on this thing at this date and here's a video of it. So,
Oh man, I haven't told my community that I did this
well,
at all. They are going to lose their
yes.
Yeah. But
it's going to be fun. I'm going to be doing eventually, I'm thinking of doing an actual podcast sometime in the future, but that's going to probably be in March after some reshuffling goes on, and I may end up having a room that I can record in. And Lead, yeah, your talk is missing at the like I don't have it on this channel, and it didn't record very well. I've gotten better at recording. So I would love if you want to do your fantasy biology talk again. It was amazing. So yeah, definitely do that again. So I'm going to wrap it up here because we're 15 minutes over. We can hang out and chat. I'm just going to stop the recording. Yeah, it's 7:13.
Yeah, no worries.
So we can.
Thank you very much for having me. Like, holy shit, this was fantastic.
Thank you for the help. I needed it. Like, I was not going to be able to plan this week after surgery. My brain is a mess. Yeah, have a good night, Lead. Thank you for staying up with us.
Bye, Lead. Have a great day. Thank you so much for staying up. Be well.
Yeah, have a great night. Kataru, it is recorded, so don't worry about it, and we will call it here. I will see you guys in a couple of weeks, and happy holidays.